Thank you all so much for clicking on this Cowboys Report video. Now, as I'm sure you know, the Dak Prescott extension deadline is almost here, and we're going to break down where things stand between Dak and the Cowboys in just a second. But first, if you're part of the over 50% who watch the Cowboys Report but aren't subscribed, now is the time to change that. Whatever the Cowboys end up doing, paying Dak or not paying Dak, we're going to break it down in depth on the channel. So hit that big red button and subscribe today. All right, as promised, let's begin with Dak with the big question. Is the extension going to happen? Depending on when you watch this video, and regardless, you're probably around 3 days away, I'm actually going to drop this down to 2 stars. I am officially in the I'm concerned about the Cowboys plan right now phase because, yes, there's still time, and I know deadlines make deals, and I don't want to freak out. And if I had to pick one, I still think it gets done, but I don't know. I am concerned. I am worried. I am nervous. Now, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reports many in the NFL don't think a deal gets done. The Cowboys love to go right up against the deadline, and I'm sure they will. And I am not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing that it appears to be pretty quiet around the Cowboys and Dak, but that clock is ticking, and they've had over a year to get this done. And the last reports were the years were the issues. And this, of course, was pre-Mahomes, but as we broke down, I don't think it's been drastically impacted. Dak wants 4, the Cowboys want 5, and there's just logical issues that I have for the Cowboys not wanting to pay Dak. Now, the first one is that if you're not truly committed, don't do it. I get that part, although if you weren't committed, why would you have used the big tag? If you're worried about the cap, I will break that down too. I get the COVID impact there. The Cowboys love their flexibility, but the only argument is you don't think Dak's your guy. But here's the problem with that argument, or if you're worried about the cap or the cost, or the Cowboys saying that they want 5 years, right? They use the expensive tag, using the exclusive franchise tag, which costs the Cowboys more. What that has done, what that does, is it makes it more expensive. They use the expensive tag, which only makes sense if the Cowboys were doing it as a placeholder. That use of the expensive tag, because they do it, that's an argument why they should pay Dak. Because now they've set themselves in for not just 31.4 this year, 37-ish next year. Waiting, as we've already seen proven true multiple times now, only costs them more. And it's a really weird logical argument to see the Cowboys having paid Zeke, paid Amari. They drafted CeeDee Lamb. They've paid their left tackle, their right guard, their right tackle, their tight end. They've literally locked in their offensive core and were able to afford it. Let's get rid of that argument, by the way. If they don't pay Dak, I'm pretty damn concerned about the Cowboys saying, you know what, we're going to let this top 10 quarterback go ahead and walk after, not this year, but the year after that. I'm concerned. I still think the deal gets done if you make me pick one way or the other, but I'll be honest, I was hoping that by the time we got to the Sunday before the franchise tag deadline, we at least heard progress was being made. Hopefully I can reverse jinx that into happening, but I'm concerned. So cast your votes. Does it get done with the deadline rapidly approaching? Y for yes or N for no. Let's go to, more contract talks. Is Zeke overpaid? It depends on if you think running backs matter, I guess, right? So I'll give it 2 stars. Now, Bleacher Report put out their list of most overpaid players on each team. They peg Zeke. First off, I'd argue it's actually Tyron Crawford because why would you pay that guy $9 million? But that's beside the point. I don't want to get into the Cowboys' total roster management because there are some issues I have with that all the way through. What it really comes down to is, do you view backs as replaceable or easier to replace? Or do you think that Zeke is not worth it? Are running backs worth it in general? So it's almost more of a philosophical question, I think, than an individual player perspective. Zeke remains awesome. If you believe in paying backs, Zeke, Christian McCaffrey, and not a whole lot else are the guys you would really argue for as being the type of player that you want to pay true 3-down backs. And look, is Elliott as good as he was in 2016? No, I don't think so. Then again, the offensive line is not as good as it was in 2016. So do you think Zeke is overpaid? I think Zeke's going to tell you absolutely not. A for yes, B for no. If you don't want to pay running backs, period, well, then the answer is obviously yes. If you think backs are worth being paid, I think the answer is obviously no. So that philosophical debate, that's why I took the cop-out answer, I guess, and put in 2 stars. Now, speaking of Zeke and Dak, by the way, our friends over at Fanatics just launched these player face masks. You see the signatures on there, the numbers, the names. 2 packs are available at chatsports.com/Cowboys player mask. I know that's kind of a long URL. I'll put it in the comments and the description. They've got the navy, and they've got the gray-black. They got 3 players available for now. That's Dak, that's Zeke, and that's Amari Cooper. They are all available, so go check them out. Again, that link's in the comments and in the description. Chatsports.com/player mask. Not included on those masks were Amari Cooper, which I found interesting. And now ESPN has, again, released their top 10 at positions. Is Cooper a top 10 receiver? ESPN had him at number 10, at least the poll of executives did. And I'm inclined to agree. I think Cooper is a top 10 receiver. There is some inconsistency. Sure, there are some really good receivers that kind of got left out, talking guys like Thielen and Stephon Diggs and Kenny Golladay. There was some polarizing comments or divisive viewpoints of Amari Cooper. As high as number 5 on this list, other executives had him completely unranked, which I found actually pretty fascinating. 2 quotes, one of which we'll get to, kind of, I think, indicate this. So the top 5, right? Julio Jones, number 1. Michael Thomas, number 2. Hopkins, number 3. I would actually flip Nuke and Thomas, but I like that top 3. Surprised OBJ came in at 4 after that last season. Tyreek Hill's at 5. Both of the Bucs receivers, Mike Evans at 6, Chris Godwin at 9. Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, and then Amari Cooper. Well, there are a lot of good receivers out there, and I think Cooper is certainly in that discussion. Now, one personnel guy said there was something holding him back and he didn't want to sign him. Okay. But I think this NFL coach, unnamed by the way, a little bit more on the nose here. The media has put a label on Amari as this or that. One coach said he was a sloppy route runner. Don't know what the hell that guy's watching. But if you watch him and watch him work, the coach said, he's a top-level receiver. I think the numbers back that up. And yeah, there were times for Cooper last year where I think he was hurt. I don't think he was 100%. The Cowboys, in the end, mismanaged his contract, had to pay him more because they waited to the last second, because that's just what they do. But I think Cooper is a top 10 receiver. Now, maybe I think I might put him maybe 8. I think 10's a pretty good number for him. I think he's just inside of it. But I do want to hear from you guys. Where do you think Amari Cooper ranks among the NFL's wide receivers? Do you have him in the top 5? Do you have him at number 10? Put your numbers down there in the comments section for me. Let's go now to Tyron Smith. Again, that same ESPN poll thing. They had him as the NFL's best offensive tackle. And you guys know, I remain on Team Tyron. I don't agree, though. I'm only going to give it the 1 star. I think a common theme I've noticed from these polls has been there is a bit of like, and ESPN, the coaches were like, no, it's not name biased, or it's not just, height biased. I think there is some what they've done before and hesitancy to really move forward with players. Again, I like Tyron Smith, had a low of 11. That's too low. I would not have put him at number 1 overall. Here's what the NFL executive had to say. Watched him closely and was expecting a drop-off in play, but it's not there. He's got the injury stuff, but when he's healthy and on, he's still really, really good. He's still on another planet as far as a dominant two-phase player. So I agree with most of that. When Smith is healthy, he remains one of the best tackles in the NFL. I just don't think he's number 1. I think maybe more in the top 5-ish. The issue for me is that you got a lot of offensive tackles who, frankly, I think have a legit argument to be number 1 overall. You got Tyron Smith. Laramie Tunsil came in at number 2. He's got a good argument. Trent Williams, I think, should not be 3 since he didn't play last year. Ronnie Stanley has an argument. Taron Armstead, I think, might actually be my pick. Lane Johnson's awesome, even though he's a Philadelphia Eagle. David Bakhtiari remains great. Ryan Ramczyk's really good. I'm a little surprised Trent Brown came in there. Taylor Lewan is really good. Not included on this list, by the way, is Zach Martin. Is La'el Collins. My note here is that Zach Martin was number 2 on the offensive guard list behind Quentin Nelson. That makes sense. So who's the better OT, though? And I think you can legitimately make an argument it might be La'el Collins right now. I thought he was, if not as good, maybe a little bit better than Tyron Smith last year. Now, it's a good debate to have because you're coming out on top either way when you've got two of the best tackles in the NFL. So cast your votes for me. T for Tyron Smith or L for La'el Collins. Going back to Bleacher Report now, they have pegged Donovan Wilson as the Cowboys' top sleeper. Now, first off, kind of like secret weapons, I don't know if sleepers really exist in the NFL, at least once they're drafted. I'll give it 2 stars. I think there is a decent argument here. I don't think Bleacher Report picked the best path. And their argument was, hey, you look at the Cowboys' depth chart, Xavier Woods, Clinton Dix, Darian Thompson, all those guys are better fits at free safety, which I agree with. And then they were like, well, that means Donovan Wilson can play strong safety, which I think he can. The problem is, and this is the whole problem with Donovan Wilson in general, is the previous regime, which is gone, which makes things different. But the previous regime did not view Wilson as a strong safety. Can I emphasize that again? They did not view him in that role. He played almost exclusively free safety. Even when there were injuries, they went with Darian Thompson instead to play strong safety. They did not view Wilson as a box guy. I'm not sure that's right, but I think we have to acknowledge, as great as Wilson was in the preseason, and those snaps, by the way, include preseason because that's pretty much all he played last year, they didn't think he was a box guy. They thought he was a free safety. So I'm curious to see what happens in camp and how this new coaching staff views him. But as of right now, Wilson was a free safety for the Cowboys. That is a potential issue given that Woods and Clinton Dix right now are better free safeties. I'll give you guys another chance to go get yourself a Cowboys player face mask, Dak, Zeke, and CeeDee Lamb. It's available at chatsports.com/Cowboys player mask. They've got 2 packs available right now. It'll take a little bit to ship probably because these are brand new. So get in line while you have the best chance to. Chatsports.com/Cowboys player mask. A interesting rumor that I damn near gave fake news to. Bench Shawn Lee. No, don't like that one at all. Just the 1 star here. I was a little taken aback by the initial point, and then I realized that for the most part from inside the star, they were acknowledging injury concerns, and that's fair. I think there's a little bit of overhype going on for Joe Thomas, and probably especially Luke Gifford since he barely played last year. The claim was that it was a surprise to see Thomas re-sign, but guys, depth is a thing. Like, you got Jalen Smith, who wasn't as good last year. Leighton Vander Esch coming off the neck injury. Shawn Lee is going to turn 34 soon. He's an older player. You wanted depth in Joe Thomas. If Shawn Lee is healthy, and unless the play really falls off a cliff, which I have not seen yet, he wasn't as good last year, but, I mean, he was still starting caliber. I don't have any interest in benching Shawn Lee. I love the intelligence, one of the best football minds, not on the Cowboys, but in the NFL in general. His instincts are borderline off the charts. I am not sitting Shawn Lee anytime soon. If injuries happen, different discussion. But outright, absolutely not. Hey Cowboys fans, thanks for watching the Cowboys Report. If you haven't already, click right here to subscribe to our channel for all the best Cowboys coverage on the internet. That's news, rumors, highlights, mailbags, film studies, and a whole lot more. And I'm making your lives a little bit easier as well with the next Cowboys Report video right here.